I'm making this video just to show my process of how I make drawings on Procreate. So yeah, as you watch this drawing video of how I make this artwork of this Australian sniper wearing a ghillie suit, I mean, you'll see that I sort of jump around the drawing a fair bit. I mean, I'm just kind of blocking in the shapes initially, and then on the first layer, and then I go in on a second layer, and I do a bit more of a detailed sketch of kind of how I want everything to sit on the character. Just doing some adjustments like that, a bit of selecting the shapes to move them around, and really just making sure that all the right shapes are there, so that when I go in and ink the drawing like I am now, that everything sits where it's supposed to be, and I don't need to move anything around later on and potentially have some issues with the drawing further down the line. Alright, so you can see right now that I'm just jumping straight into the inks. I'm really just blocking in some. I'm working on just one layer for all of the inks on this drawing. I found that as I go through, I can just ink a little bit here and there, just chuck some shading in, chuck the shadows in. I find that for the way I work, it's really easy to see the drawing come together a lot sooner than if I was to just do all the outlines and then come back later and do the shading, and it feels a bit more natural as well that way. I also have a tendency when I draw to jump around the image quite a bit. As you can see, I've drawn in an arm and a hand, and then I've gone and drawn in the other hand, and then shaded all of that. And now I'm working on the rifle, shading that. I'm just using the normal studio pen in Procreate to do all this. I was in the past I used a few other brushes, but I actually like this one quite a bit at the moment. It's quite handy when it comes to this sort of ink work, this more comic book esque style, and it makes the drawing look really nice. And yeah, I'm kind of getting that aesthetic I'm looking for whenever I use it. It's just one of the better brushes I've actually used, and it's funny because it's already in the program. You don't need anything fancy. I mean, you can just use what Procreate gives you to make some cool stuff. Now I'm moving on to the actual suit, or the actual ghillie suit itself, and I'm just blocking in some strands, some more of the camouflage bits on the suit, going in there, detailing the strands of grass and things that the character is wearing. This did take a fair bit of time to do all the strands and things like that. I mean, it's quite intricate and detailed, but I think it paid off in the end. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, so now I'm just moving on to, well, I'm still on the suit itself, and I'll kind of just let this play in the background, the video. I find that it depends on each individual person's drawing style, but for me, I found that instead of just working in one specific area of whatever I'm drawing and just sort of jumping around a little bit, it helps to keep the image from being like overcrowded, over detailed. Makes it a bit more consistent overall. Instead of if I were to just work exclusively on one area at a time, it could get too detailed in that area and just sort of lose sort of the clarity of what it's, I guess, of what it's supposed to be. It makes everything sort of consistent across the board. But yeah, see, now I'm working on the rifle and the bipod, doing some details on that, going back to the suit, jumping back and forth quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, as of late, I've been jumping around quite a bit on my drawings. Just, I don't know, I just don't stay in one area very long. But yeah, I find that, it's just my thing. It works for me, it might not work for you. You have to find out what works for you, especially with brushes and things like that. Maybe you want like a fine line sort of brush, whereas, I'm using more of like a tapered brush. And I think generally, if you want like the thick to thin, you will want to use a tapered brush. But you can achieve the thick to thin with a fine liner as well. That sort of brush, you just go back over the area and make it a bit thicker. That's just not really what I'm into when it comes to drawing. I find it's annoying, especially with digital work. It can be quite annoying. But I find with traditional, something like that, works quite fine. It's just the two different mediums. It's just kind of how it works, I suppose. Doing some work on the pants, the ghillie suit, just jumping back and forth between those areas, getting everything thrown together, being worked on the scope, on the barrel of the rifle, doing some work on the binoculars that this sniper has. And yeah, just for I did use reference for this drawing as well. So this, I'm not so amazing that I'm pulling this out of thin air. I'm working from an image to put this drawing together. And I mean, there's no shame in using reference material at all. I mean, how are you supposed to know what to draw if you can't see what you want to draw? I mean, when I was practicing how to draw plate carriers, I would look up images of plate carriers, how to draw those, and I would just draw them again and again and again, so that in the future I'd be able to pull from my imagination and put something together that looked pretty convincing for a plate carrier. But I mean, things like that are quite detailed, and there's lots of bits involved with that sort of thing. But I mean, unless you're insane and you have like just an awesome imagination, I couldn't draw this if unless I had a reference material in front of me. I mean, I'm just not at that level yet. But I'm pretty proud of where I am at the moment. Still lots of work to do, still lots of improvements to be made in my process, how I draw, just the placement of some brush strokes, things like that. Working on the boot or the shoe, just blocking that in, getting some shading on that, fixing up a few lines. I think we're nearing the end of this drawing. And yeah, just still going back and forth between the suit and the boot, just making sure that it's pretty consistent overall. Tried experimenting with some little branches in the background and things like that. I didn't really like it, so I got rid of it. But yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, experimenting. I mean, with digital art, you have more freedom to do things like that, because I can just erase or delete a layer or something like that. With traditional art, you need to be a bit more careful. But both have their pros and cons. I've been using Procreate almost exclusively for about a year now, maybe, something like that. And yeah, it's such a good program. But yeah, putting in my signature, doing a few more details, I ended up putting in a black background because this is going on a t-shirt. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the drawing, guys. I mean, I like how it ended up. It's pretty good. I've got more videos that I can make commenting on my drawings and how I work and things like that. This drawing is going to go on a t-shirt, hence the black background. But yeah, I mean, if you enjoyed it, let me know and I can make some more videos, hopefully better in the future. And yeah, cheers.